René Mayo, who's currently managing our Mobile Hospice Program for Gilchrist. Her quote is, "If you work hard, anything is possible." And she is going to share with us lessons she has learned from being the daughter of an Air Force officer. And she was formerly Vice President of Palliative Medicine for MedStar Health Incorporated. She has 20 years of experience of healthcare, 20 years of healthcare experience with a focus on program development, strategic planning, leadership, case management, and business operations. She has created and expanded medicine programs in the Maryland and D.C. region. She has also developed and led standardized simulation training for over 1,000 physicians and surgical and medical resident physicians in the past 10 years. The genesis of this work was to focus on readmissions, length of stay, throughput issues, and other systems issues related to quality and reimbursement in the state of Maryland. She was the chair of the MedStar Ethics Committee and facilitated change and education across the system on how to evaluate complex issues related to decision-making. Ms. Mayo's research interests include medical education and curriculum development. She also has an interest in a transdisciplinary approach to care and how to promote this team building among medical residents and other staff. She's a former member on the board of directors for the Maryland Hospice and Palliative Network, the Living Legacy Foundation for the state of Maryland, and serves as a member of the Maryland Cancer Coalition and the State of Maryland Palliative Legislative Committee. Ms. Mayo received her Bachelor of Science degree in Social Work and Sociology from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. She completed her graduate studies from Millersville University of Pennsylvania with a master's degree in social work with a focus on community development and healthcare leadership. She is certified in medical education research through NIH. So without further ado, we're going to introduce René Mayo.
Thanks, Christine.
And I'd just like to ask everybody, including me, to mute so that we don't have any competition for the speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. So good morning. I'm so excited to be here this morning. Before I start, I will say that my father died 2 years ago in May, very unexpectedly. And some of the things that I'm going to talk about today actually were lessons that also prepared me for his untimely death. So I think that is a special part of this in terms of the work that we all do every day. So for any of you that have had the honor of being the daughter or son of someone that served in the armed forces, you know that we are a special breed. On top of that, I am the firstborn, so I always consider myself the test pilot in my dad's rearing of children. We're often raised with the same tenacity, schedules, expectations, and accountability that our service-minded parent had drilled into them. So my sister and I always joked that my dad thought that we were his unit, like he had in the military. So my dad was a tall, broad-shouldered man with huge hands. He had a booming voice, but he also had a very big heart. And everything that he did over his life, he worked so hard to be successful at. So when he was in high school, he was an all-star athlete. He was president of his class. He went on to his military career and to earn his degrees, and then later went into consulting for the U.S. government in their part of their armed forces and their contracts in the defense industry. So it's funny that he should have a daughter that would turn out to be a social worker, but more on that. So my dad taught me resilience, responsibility, being humble, to be brave, and to always be courageous. He also had very high expectations of me, which as a young person, I thought was a little bit absurd and over the top. He always said, Renee, aim high, because if you fall short of that goal, you'll still be in a good place. If you only aim mediocre and you fall short, things will not be good. So sports, academics, relationships, and community service were all important aspects of what my father's children were expected to excel in. At the age of 17, I remember sitting around my grandmother's very large dining room table we always had dinner together as an extended family on Sunday afternoons after church. And I was getting ready to go into my senior year of high school. So my grandmother said, so this is aunts, uncles, cousins, you know, we even had that little mini card table where the younger kids sat. My grandmother said, so Rene, what do you plan to major on in college? And I said, social work. I remember this like it was yesterday. There was complete silence around that table. So you have to understand, everyone at that table was a leader in the business world or in the military. We had principals, we had head of the Department of Transportation. We had my parents who both worked in the defense industry. And there you had the 17-year-old girl that said she wanted to be a social worker. And I'm not sure, really thinking back as an adult, that anyone really knew what that meant, only that it was foreign to them. And on top of that, I think today they maybe thought I would be standing on a corner holding up signs or something. I don't know what they thought. But my grandmother very lovingly said, well, that will be a great thing to do until you get married, dear. And I thought, oh, I don't even know what this means. But okay, so we carried on with our dinner. And somehow this plan did not fit in with what everyone, I guess, thought that I would do with my life. Very conservative and sort of an executive mindset that every adult had in my family, and they all excelled in. If you know me, you know I am nothing if not persistent. And I'm very determined. So my father never actually spoke of this conversation again. I was in my mid-40s when he died. We never talked about the fact that I was a social worker or what that meant or what it looked like. I know that he was very proud of me because I had done well. However, I still think even up until the time he died, he didn't really understand what that meant. He did say, go out and whatever you do it well. So I took that charge as sort of an approval, and I did go out, and maybe as you heard in my bio, I did some things that many MSWs never get the chance to do in leadership. And I attribute that solely to continuing to look toward others to mentor me, many physicians and nurses and other colleagues in the healthcare industry that helped me continue to rise and be my best self. That small grain of advice, along with all the other advice I had gained from my Air Force father, has helped me succeed in every possible way. Even though I've had a very successful career, my role as wife and mother and daughter and friend are equally as important to me. And some of the things about always aiming high to do your best and to be resilient have served me well in life as well as in my career. He was not the kind of man who spoke of following your passion, which funny is that's such a common thing today. Follow what you love, follow your passion. But he did teach me that if you work hard, anything is possible. Even the most remote and unexpected successes can and will happen if you have the right mindset. So I would challenge everyone today to always aim high and be their best selves, even if you don't think that some of the things that you hope for are possible, they are. Thank you very much for giving me this chance to talk about my relationship with my father and how his service to this country and how he was developed impacts what I do today for hopefully my colleagues and also the patients and families that I have the honor to work with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Renee. So I'd love to open up so people, if you'd like to ask questions, please unmute and ask Renee questions as you would like.
I love questions, by the way.
Hi, Renee, it's Philip.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, how are you? So, I mean, what you said highlights something on my mind, which is, yes, even if among family members, there are often discussion in general terms about what family members' aspirations are, what they would like to do in life and so forth, but opening up more about each other's life and what those goals mean, and sometimes maybe what specific goals each of us in that family have is needed. I mean, you even mentioned that sometimes the conservative mindset will overshadow, like, this is what the family is, this is what the history of the family is, this is who we are. And then somebody would say, I'd like to venture into social work or sociology. But with that mindset, I mean, sometimes, unfortunately, opening up could mean some antagonism about aspirations and what we think the right path is, or not so much the right path is. So I was wondering what you think about opening up, even if opening up means quote unquote clashes, as opposed to, here's my son, here's my daughter, just be successful, aim high, and good luck, kind of.
Right. So I do think, I certainly think it depends on your family dynamics and how the relationships and personalities are. Over the years, there were small opportunities for me to open up about what my world looked like, but my world was so vastly different than everyone else in my family. I'm not sure when you're that far, there's that much of a chasm between you in terms of career and your service to your society, that there can even be like a good connection. So I think that's where you fall to the point, whether it's for yourself or with your own children, to say, I may not understand what your mission is or what your goal is that was uniquely created for you, but I support you. And I think if you are able to support people and you're able to encourage them and mentor them, even if you don't understand what their industry or what their mission is, you can still help them move forward. And I think that's really the goal.
Yeah, thank you. Because I mean, I've known family personally whose, let's say, newer generation is on the path which was, I don't know, destined to be, but still the opening up does not happen, even if, nobody designs anybody's path in life, and let's say children just took on the path that the family has been taking for a generation, but yet there is no opening up and there's no discussion, even if there are no clashes kind of in these situations. Right. So yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Anyone else?
Hi, Renee. I'm Jane. I too am a Navy brat, and I was wondering, did you have conversations with your father? Did your father want you to join the armed forces?
So this is sort of a sticky answer that I'm going to give, and I know this is not politically correct in today's world. So I will preface it with that. Absolutely not. He did not want his daughters to go into the armed forces. And I will say, even though he, of course, treated us with a lot of respect and a significant amount of consideration for who we are, he did not see it as our place to be in the military. I did almost probably cause an early death by bringing up the prospect of going into the Peace Corps post-undergrad. And that I did retreat from, because he looked so terribly pained at that possibility that I thought, okay, you've probably done enough to this poor man. But he did not. And I don't know if later in life he ever felt any differently about that. I don't think he looked at women as second class by any means. I think he respected our gender, but I don't think that even to the end he really looked at that as a place that he would want us to be. And maybe some of that was just protective instinct. I don't know. How about you?
Well, my dad definitely had high hopes that we would I'm a twin. He had high hopes that both of us would. However, we both staunchly said no. I think what drove him to want us to do that was security, was that it would be job security for us, and that we would find a man that we would marry and he would take care of us. I think that was really the drive, not so much finding passion in what you feel,
Right.
your gifts and the way you could use it. It was more of a very pragmatic way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's interesting.
Hi, Jane. And hello, Renee. Thank you so much. It's Karen Wilson. I am an Army brat and was stationed overseas. Did you have that experience as well, or were you mostly in the States? And did you think that that had any influence over kind of even your mindset in how you decide to go down any path?
So we did not move around with my dad. Whenever he was deployed somewhere, he went, and we stayed stateside with my mother and my grandparents. And so I think we missed some of those opportunities. Again, he was very protective of us, and really, really thought it was important to have that extended family be part of raising us. And so I think that had a lot to do with it. And I don't know if he thought that much about it. It was very, he was very kind of, this is the way that he perceived it should be. And if you sort of went outside of those parameters, it depended on what it was and what his thoughts were on it. So I can't really answer that because I didn't have that experience. How about you?
So we did have that experience. We lived in both Italy twice and Germany once. My sister actually has dual citizenship because she was born in Germany. And so I do think that it had quite a bit of an impact on how we deal with challenges, deal with things that are new, because we constantly had to face being in a new place, being with new friends, having to make new friends. And so I do think that it was impactful for us. I don't think it's for everybody, but it certainly did, I think, steer us in a very different direction. But it was worthwhile all the way around, for sure.
I would agree with that, worthwhile. I would say growing up, today we see on TV all the time, dads coming home to their children. And I think it's more recognized today that there is a very large impact on the people that are stateside. So in some ways that probably developed some of who I am today. So different, but yeah. Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Yes, this is Wayman. I'm with our bereavement department. And I was wondering, what part of your father and your family's experience as executives and leaders, what part of that follows you in your work today? How does that manifest in your work?
That is a great question. And I do think that there are many things that I learned from all of those rich experiences that my family brought together to lend itself maybe to, in my field, of becoming a leader in this field. Definitely, I would say the experience and opportunity to learn how to speak up, to be comfortable with who you are and what your thoughts are, but also to have those conversations and those discussions at a high level in a way that is respectful, in a way that looks at all different kinds of I think opinions and ideas that come to the table, and not just expect that your way is the only way. Because I do think that's one of the things that I learned not only from my father's background in the military, but also in these experiences of leaders in my own family, that everyone has a voice. And that is one thing that I have carried with me. So even when I have been in leadership positions in the past, I never, ever make that assumption that I have all the right answers or that my way is the only way to look at it. And usually I've learned more from the people that work with and for me than I ever brought to the table myself. But I was very open to that. So I think that was probably the greatest lesson that I learned.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so my husband was an Air Force brat, and he went all over the world, and I was an foreign service brat. So we oftentimes interacted, and I can't even tell you the richness of our lives and living all those cultures and going through all those things. It really broadens your horizons to see. It also, interestingly enough, makes you very patriotic, and I ended up joining the Air Force. Interestingly enough, only for 2.5 years, but what they say, once you've served, and it really is deeply entrenched within you. So I really appreciate your thoughts, Renee. And if anybody else has anything to offer, that would be fantastic. If not, we will just give you a second to chime in.
I do. I have one question.
Thank you.
And that is, do you think birth order had a lot to do with the expectations that your family had for you, being the oldest?
I do. Like I said, I think that I was the test pilot of the unit. However, it's funny that you bring that up because I only have one sibling and she is 5 years younger than me. And she sort of followed the code, and she is a vice president of an international banking firm. And so I don't know, I think usually the youngest is the one that's like the more like, I'm going to go make my way in the world. But yeah, so I don't know.
Fair enough.
Maybe she looked at my way and said, oh, that is entirely not what I want to do. I think I'm just going to go with the status quo.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
well,
Renee,
thank you.
Renee,
sorry.
it's Diane. It's not a question, but it's just a very big thank you for being here with us and for sharing your story. And I must say, I never met your dad, but his legacy does live on with you. Your leadership, your kindness, you mentioned your resiliency, your passion, and just your ability to embrace and be accepting of so many people. So he does live through you, and we're just so grateful for your message and for being here with us today.
Thank you, Diane, very much.
Okay, thank you, everybody, and have a great Monday. Okay.
Take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.